Hey friends, what up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yud Aleph, Daf 11 of Masechet Taanis. Friends, who could tell me what Daf Yud Aleph talks about? So, fasting. What do you want me to tell you? It talks about fasting and stuff like that. And then we get to the end about the Shaila of, can you do like partial fasts? What do you guys think? Yes? No? Let's go weiter. So, we're going to start in Daf Yud Aleph on the third line of the daf, where it says, Omer Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. So it says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, Kol Amari V'atzmo B'shnei Raivon. Somebody who starves himself during a famine, right? So if there's a famine, and he's not fressing, meaning, I guess we're talking about somebody who has food. If it's a famine and you don't have food, you probably don't really have much of a choice in the matter. But, even if you do have access to food, you shouldn't be, partying too hard when it's a famine. And if you do that, if you starve yourself during a famine, you will be saved from some strange death. All right, what am I going to tell you? What did Rashi say? Did he say something over there? No, I guess not. All right, yeah, he did. Oh wow, I didn't even pick up on that the first time. Friends, did you hear that? That was insane. That was redunculous. Friends, did you hear that, Rashi? Misa Mishuna. What's a strange death? Meiz b'cherev v'varav, get killed by a sword or famine. V'chol misa she'ena bidei malach hamoves. And any death that is not by way of the angel of death, kederech kol adam, which is the way of most people, amitasu, on their bed. Okay, so it seems like the standard way to die would be lying on your bed. Malach hamoves comes, and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And then he kills you. All right, what do you guys think of that? But anyways, I don't know. How do you understand this Rashi? Does it mean v'chol misa she'enu de malach hamoves? Does that mean that if you get killed by a sword, it's not the angel of death, it's the fellow who killed you by the sword? The angel of death only kills people like when they're just lying in their bed and then he comes and chaps arayin? Very interesting stuff. Anyways, alright. As the pasuk says, B'rav podcho mimoves. Okay, that the pasuk says that in famine he saved you from death. Meirav mi boile. It should say from death. This is what it's saying. That in the merit that he starved himself during a time of famine, he's going to be saved from some strange death, not by way of the angel of death while you're lying there on your bed. Alright. Sounds very nice. Rish Lakish says Rish Lakish also la'adam the shamash mitasu b'shnei raivon. Says Rish Lakish that marital intercourse, marital relations is not allowed during a famine. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Yosef yulad shnei banim, that Yosef in Egypt he had two children. B'terim tavosh nasarav. When did that happen? Before the famine years came. But once the famine years came, then marital relations are not allowed during a famine. Tana chasuche banim mishamshim itoseim b'shnei raivon. However, says the Gemara, but people who do not have children, so then there's a mitzvah to have children, so they are able to have marital relations during a famine in order to be mekayim the mitzvah of pru urevu. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, b'zman sheyisrael shruim b'tzar, if you have a situation where the Yidden are in a shver matzav, they're in a difficult situation, uferish echad mehem, and one fellow sort of disassociates himself with the congregation. Okay? So the two angels that escort a fellow, it sounds like at all times there are two angels escorting people. Even right now, I don't see them. It's like the gecko in Southeast Asia, right? Whenever you go to a new place over there, it's just a matter of time until you spot the gecko. So I don't know. There's these angels, I guess, over here. I haven't seen him yet, but all right, maybe at some point I'll notice them. What do you think their names are? I don't know. I wonder. All right. So the two angels that escort a fellow come, and they put their hands on his head, and they say, this fellow who distanced himself, who separated himself from the congregation, will not will not see the consolation of the congregation. All right. Well, all right. So I guess this, get with the program, I guess, as they say. Taanis, another brisa says, that when the congregation is in a shver matzav, a fellow should not say, Eilech levesi. You know what I'm going to do? Everybody's in a shver matzav. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go home. Ve'ochal, I'll eat epis. Ve'eshte, I'll drink. V'shalom alayich nafshi, and peace upon you, my soul. Don't do that. V'mosekain, if a fellow does this, all of a kasav omer, regarding this fellow, the pasuk says, v'nisasum v'simcha, that it's all happiness and rejoicing. Harog bakar v'shachot zon, kill cows, slaughter sheep. Achol basu v'shasos yain, eat meat, drink wine. Achol v'shasu kimacha namus, that eat and drink because tomorrow we're going to die. Maksiv baser, what does it say in the next pasuk? V'nigla ba'oznei Hashem tzvakos, and it will be revealed in the ears of the Eibishter, if this sin will ever be forgiven for you. So therefore, if the congregation is in a shver matzav, is in a difficult situation, so don't go out and party, lemaisa. All right. Now this is the attributes of sort of middle of the road people. Aval b'midas rishoyim maksiv. What does it say about the ways of the evil, of the nudniks? Esayu ekcho yayin v'nizba ashechar. Right, let's chaparain wine and drink beer. I say I haven't had beer in a while. All right, what am I going to tell you? V'aya kayom zemachar, and we'll do the same thing tomorrow. Maksiv baser, what does it say afterwards? Hatzadik oved ve'ein ish som alev, that the what is it? Avad, Hatzadik avad, that the tzaddik is gone and nobody is paying attention. Kim pnei hara nesaf hatzadik, that on account of the evil, the tzaddik was taken away. So the difference between the beinonim, the middle of the road people, and the nudniks is that the beinonim at least acknowledge that tomorrow they're going to die, whereas the nudniks they don't say that, right? Whereas the middle of the road people said, let's eat and drink today because tomorrow we're going to die. The nudniks, they said, let's eat and drink today, and tomorrow lemaisa we'll do the same thing. So all right. So anyways, don't do these things. Ela yitzayir adam im atzibur. Rather, a fellow should pain himself with the congregation. If the congregation is in pain, is in distress, so a fellow should be distressed with them. Because this, after all, is what we see with Moses. That he, what was the word I just said? I feel like the word I said recently was not bad, but distress, maybe, was that the word I said? That Moshe Rabbeinu distressed himself, is this to distress? Anyways, I don't know. But Moshe Rabbeinu, when the congregation was in a stressful situation, he also put himself in a stressful situation. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Videi Moshe Kvedim, when the Yidden were fighting against Amalek after they left Egypt. So it says that the hands of Moshe were heavy, and they took stones and they put it under him, and he sat on it. All right. What's the deal? Why was Moshe sitting on a stone? Didn't he have some kind of a couch, some kind of a cushion he could have sat on? But no. Yeah, sure, enochinami. But Moshe said, Since the Yidden are in a shver matzav, are in distress, so afani eya imoim bitzar, so I will also be in distress with them, and I won't sit on cushions. I'll sit on stone. And a fellow who distresses himself with the congregation, so he will be able to see the consolation of the congregation. So if the congregation is in a difficult situation, well, they're going to come out of that difficult situation. And anybody who sort of put himself in their boat and with them and supported them and was in a stressful situation with them, so when this is all over, he's going to this fellow who was with the congregation will be able to see the consolation and experience the consolation of the congregation. And maybe a fellow will say, may it be, and maybe a fellow is going to say, but who's looking? Who knows if I'm being distressed with the congregation? You know who? The stones and the pillars and the boards or the beams of a fellow's house, they're going to testify. If he is if he's distressing himself with the congregation. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, ki even mikir tizak, that the stone from a wall will cry out, v'chafis me'etz ya'aneno, and this what was the chafis thing? This like half a brick that they would put between different like pieces of wood. So they're going to call out. All right. Again, if the congregation is in distress, so you should really be in distress with them. The Reb Shila Amr, they said in the Beis Medrash Reb Shila, that the two angels that escort a fellow, Hein Me'idin Olav, they are the ones that testify against him. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Ki malachu vitzavalach, that the angels will command about you, or that the Eibishter commands the angels that they should tattletale on you, whatever it is. Reb Chidka Omer says, Reb Chidka nishmaso shel adam hi me'ida olav. Says Reb Chidka, it's taka, the soul of a fellow's soul is going to report to the Eibishter if he's distressing himself with the congregation. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, mishocheves cheikecho shmor pischei picho. That from that which lies in your chest, so guard what you say, i.e., from your nefesh, from your neshama, from your soul. Those who say evar shel adam idem bo, there are those who say that take, a person's limbs testify about him. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Atem edai num Hashem, you are my witnesses, is the word of God. All right, that sounds very nice. So, if you have a situation where the congregation is in a difficult situation, so it's recommended that you put yourself in a difficult situation with them, to identify with them, to all right, very good. Kelemuna ve'enovel, that the Eibishter is a God of belief and there's no crookedness. Kelemuna, what does it mean that he's a God of belief? Kishem shenifrayin min harishoyim l'olam haba, just like in the world to come, the nudniks are going to be in trouble. Afilu alaver kala, even on simple sins, transgressions, shows that they do. Kach nifrayin min hatzadikim b'olam hazeh, they also the Eibishter punishes and exacts retribution, I don't know if that's the right word, from the righteous in this world, alaver kala she'osin, on the small things that they do. So just like a nudnik gets in big trouble in the world to come for every little thing that he did, so the righteous people, they get in trouble in this world for the things that they do wrong, so that they'll only have gewaldige stuff waiting for them in the next world. Ve'ein Ovel, when it says that the Eibishter doesn't have any crookedness, just like in the world to come, the righteous are rewarded for all the good stuff that they've done, even small little mitzvahs, they mamash are rewarded for. Tzadik v'yasher no, I skipped. Kach mishamun tzachol l'rishayim b'olam hazeh. Also, the Eibishter pays reward to the nudniks in this world. Afilu mitzvah kala she'osin, even for small little mitzvahs that they do. The Eibishter is going to reward the nudniks in this world, but that means that in the next world they already got the reward. They're not going to get anything, just the things that they did as nudniks. Tzadik v'yashu, that the Eibishter is righteous and straight. What was it? What's the word over here? Milamed. It teaches Shabashas P'tiraso Shel Adam, that when a fellow passes away, Leveis Olamo, to the next world, Kol Maisav Nifratin Lefanov, all of his actions are specified before him. Wow, that's nuts. A fellow passes away, all of his actions are specified before him. And they say to him, Kach v'chach asiso b'makom ploni b'yom ploni. They say, fellow, you did this in such and such a place on such and such a day. And he says, yes, I did. And they say to him, all right, sign right here. And he taka signs, shenemar, as the Apostle said, biad kol adam yachtom, that every fellow will sign. Not only that, Elo, shematzdik olav esadin, he then accepts upon himself that the judgment is accurate and correct. And he says to them, Yofid Dantuni, that you have judged me properly. I think someone's knocking at the door, but the mice are busy. I wonder who's knocking at the door at this hour. But the mice, we're gonna go weiter. L'kayim hashenemar, to be mekayim what the pasuk says, Leman titztak b'dvarecha, so that you will be righteous in your words. All right, what do you want me to tell you? Sounds very, very nice. Shmuel says, Shmuel, kol yoshiv b'Taanis. So says Shmuel, a fellow who fasts, nikra chote, is called a sinner l'maise. All right, fellow fasts, it's called a sinner. Sover ke'atana. So Shmuel holds like the following Tana. All right, the Tanya, as we talk learning the Brayser, Belazar Akaper, Berebi Omer, Uwa says Belazar Akaper, Matamalomer v'chiper olav me'ashachoto ala nefesh. So what does the pasuk mean that it says by a fellow who's a nazir? A fellow who's a nazir. All right, and then fellow's a nazir and he becomes tamei meis. So he has to do certain things, and it says that they atone for him because he sinned. What did this guy do wrong? He's a nazir. All right, nazir sounds interesting. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that he refrained from drinking wine. How could a fellow do that? What's wrong with being a nazir is that he's not allowed to drink wine. I guess we don't want him to not drink wine. Double negative. And it's a kavachomer, it's logical. Well, if you have this fellow, he's a nazir, and he basically he's restricting from himself one thing, wine, and we call him a sinner. A fellow says that he's going to fast, that he's not going to drink, that he's not going to consume any food or drinks, certainly including wine, so certainly he's a sinner. Rabbi Lazar Omer says, Rabbi Lazar, Nikra Kadosh, that Taka, this Nazir, is called a very holy fellow. Shenemar, the Apostle says, Kadosh yeh gadol peres harosho, that this fellow who's a Nazir is a Kadosh, he's very holy. This fellow who's a Nazir, and basically says, all right, I'm not going to drink wine. Wow, he's not going to drink wine. What a holy fellow. A fellow who says he's not going to drink anything, he's not going to eat anything. Memele is not wine. That's just the tip of the iceberg. He's not going to eat anything. Not even pizza. So then Memele is a very holy fellow. Shmuel ha'ikre kadosh. But now 1 second. Shmuel says that a Nazir is called a sinner. What about the fact that we see that the pasuk says, as Rabbi Elazar says, kadoshiyah gadol peres harosho, that he's taka holy. Hahu agidul perakite. Talking about his hair. His hair is holy. Alright. But he's a sinner. Well, Rabbi Elazar, according to Rabbi Elazar, nikra chote, what about the fact that the pasuk says that you have to atone for him because he sinned? So, what does he do with that? So, ahu desoiv nafshe. The reason why the Torah is calling him that we have to atone for his sin is because he became tmei meis. That's why, but not because being a Nazir per se is bad. Being a Nazir is very holy according to Rabbi Elazar. Miyamar Belazar Hachib. 1 second. Did Rabbi Elazar really say that fasting? Wait, I'm sorry. 1 second. So we have machlokas between Shmuel and Rabbi Elazar, right? So Shmuel says that a fellow who fasts is called a sinner. Rabbi Elazar says that a fellow who fasts is called holy, and they both learn it out from the Nazir, right? That the Nazir is both called, right, a sinner, right? As well as kadosh, right? It says kadosh yegalo peres haroshos. Now the Gemara says, 1 second. Now, did Rabbi Elazar really say that fasting is a very holy thing to do? But Rabbi Elazar says, that a person should always consider himself as though his insides, his intestines are very holy, and that you don't want to weaken them, and therefore you don't want to fast either. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, that your insides are very holy. Alright, fine. So, lokasha, it's no problem. It depends if he can handle it. That ki'ilu, if the fellow can handle it, so then he's called very holy. If he can't handle it, so then he shouldn't fast. Alright. Rish Lakish Amar says, Rish Lakish nikra chosid. The fellow is taka called a chosid. Shenemar, the pasuk says, Gomel nafsho ish chosid. Ve'ocher she'ero v'gomer. That a fellow who weans himself off of food, that he stays away from food, is called a very kind fellow. He's called a chosid. Alright. Rav Sheshes says, Rav Sheshes, Hai bar beirab diosu b'tainisa, a fellow who fasts, lechol kabel sheruse, let a dog eat his food instead. I guess he's not deserving of his food. It sounds like Rav Sheshes isn't necessarily so into fasting. Alright. Because he says, right, if he's a yeshiva student, he's a bar beirab, he's a yeshiva student, well, he's going to have a hard time studying the Holy Torah if he's busy fasting. Alright. Or Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, says Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, in Taanis tzibur bebavel el tishba bilvad. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba that a Taanis tzibur. Now, what's a Taanis tzibur? A Taanis tzibur isn't like what we do, Taanis Esther or something like that. Taanis tzibur is like a whole serious thing. It's kind of more like Yom Kippur and Tisha B'av, right? Even more like Yom Kippur, I think you don't do melacha. You don't wear leather shoes, any of those things. So in Bavel, right, the only one that's like that really is Tisha B'av, says Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, and that's mistama like what we do up until today, right? Tzom Gedalia or something. So you don't eat that, and that's about it. V'amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, says Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amar Rish Lakish, ein Talmud Chacham Rasha Leishiv B'Taanis B'Mnei Shemai B'Mlecha Shemaim. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba in the name of Rish Lakish that a Torah scholar is not allowed to fast, just do random fast, because he's going to affect his ability to study Torah and do the work of God, the holy work. And therefore, if by fasting he's going to be able to be less effective in his duties and his activities, so therefore better that he not fast. So the Mishnah had described those first fasts, right? The Mishnah had said that when it comes to the 17th of Mar Cheshvan, so if it hasn't rained yet, so then the Yechidim start to fast. Then if it becomes Rosh Chodesh Kislev, so then everybody starts to fast. But still, these are kind of lighter fasts, right? As the Mishnah says, so they could still eat and drink at night. Just the next day they don't eat and drink, and that's it. Amr B'Zeira, Amr Rav Huna, says Rav Zeira in the name of Rav Huna, Yachad Shekibel Olav Taanis, a fellow who accepted upon himself to fast, Afilu Achav V'Shasa Kol Alayla, so even if he eats and drinks all night, L'Machum Mispal Tfilas Taanis, the next day he could still do the prayer of the Taanis, right? The Anenu prayer that we say in Shmona Esrei on a fast day. So says Rav Zeira in the name of Rav Huna that a fellow who accepts that he's going to fast, so he can eat all night, that's fine. Even if he eats all night, the next day it's still a fast day, he could say Anenu. Lon b'Taaniso, now, if following the fast, right, so he said he's going to fast out of, let's say, Monday. Now, Monday night, after the fast, he just doesn't eat. He just ends up still fasting. Doesn't break it. Wasn't planned, but he doesn't break it. Einu mispalel shel Taanis, then the next morning, he does not say the prayer of Anenu. So now, Amr Rav Yosef Ma'iksav Rav Huna. Says Rav Yosef, what's the deal with Rav Huna? Why does Rav Huna say that if he extends his fast, the night following the fast, well then the day after that he's unable to say Anenu? Svirle Masan in the shows, is it possible that Rav Huna holds, well, you can't just fast a partial fast, right? Meaning if he's saying that he extended his, he didn't end up eating that night, so he extended his fast. But that's not the whole day. So do we say that that's not, so Rav Huna said that you're not allowed to say Anenu the next day. Is it because Rav Huna says that partial fasts are not allowed? Or do Masan in the show, so Masan in the show, so Mispal Tfilas Taanis. Or maybe what Rav Huna holds is that, yes, you are allowed to do partial fasts, but if you do a partial fast, you don't say the special prayer of Anenu. So Abaye says to Rav Yosef, Lolim Ksav Rav Huna Masan in the shows. So really Rav Huna holds that, yes, you are allowed to do partial fast. Masan in the shows, Mispal Tfilas Taanis. And interestingly, even if you you do a partial fast, you would still say Anenu. What's different over here is that he did not initially intend to be fasting the following night. And because it was unplanned, he didn't intend to be fasting the following night, so that is why you wouldn't say Anenu the next day. However, if it was like planned, that he was only going to do a sort of partial fast, he would be able to say Anenu. That is how Abaye understands Rav Huna. Mar Ukva ikla leginzak. Mar Ukva. So Mar Ukva, interesting. Mar Ukva came up a whole bunch in Masechta Shabbos. I feel like since then he hasn't really come up too much. But anyways, he was the Abezdin during the time of Shmuel. So Mar Ukva ikla leginzak. Mar Ukva visited Ginzak ba'umine misan in the shos or misan in the shos. And they asked him a few questions. They said, do you fast for certain hours, or can you do partial fast or not? Lo hava biyadei, and Mar Ukva wasn't sure of the answer. Kan konen shanochem asurin o mutarin. They wanted to know if you have these sort of containers from a Gentile that he had wine in. So in terms of non-kosher wines, is there a way are you allowed to reuse these barrels? Or these pitchers, these containers? And again, Mar Ukva wasn't sure. And additionally, they asked him during the 7 days of the Miluim, right? I believe it was the 7 days leading up to Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So, right, to the Akomas, to the Chanukah Samizbeach, right? The 7 days leading were the days of Miluim. So we want to know what clothing was Moshe Rabbeinu wearing during these during this week. And again, Mar Ukva wasn't sure. He didn't know the answer. Also, so Mar Ukva went and asked in the Beis Hamedrash, Amule, they said to him, Hilchusa, that the halacha is Misan in the shows, that yes, you are allowed to do partial fast, Mispal Tfilas Taanis, and if you do a partial fast, you are allowed to pray the Taanis, the Anenu. And the halacha is that if you have a pitcher that was used by a Gentile for wine, so you're allowed to use it yourself after 12 months. Mutar Bama Shimesh Moshe Kol Zayin Yimei HaMiluim, and what was the clothing that Moshe Rabbeinu wore during the 7 days of the Miluim? B'chaluk Lavon, he wore a white garment, a white shirt. Rav Kahana Masni B'chaluk Lavon Sheinu Imra. Kahana Taka said, took it a step further and says that yes, it was white clothing that did not have any sort of like thing on the neck, with a hem or something like on the neck. As we learned in Masechet Shkalim, said nobody should chas v'shalom. What's the thing when you think accuse Moshe Rabbeinu of maybe sticking something into like the shirt collar thing? So therefore, he wore a white garment that didn't have any collars or anything. So for sure, he didn't take anything from inside that he didn't chaperine anything as he was doing the avoda. All right, well that was daf Yud Aleph, Masechta Taanis. So the first part of the daf kind of talked about how when the congregation is in a difficult situation, so you should align yourself with the congregation, not kind of have a good time while everybody else is having a hard time. All right, we learned the machlokas between Shmuel and Rabbi Elazar about is if you sin, are you considered a sinner, or if you sin, are you considered a very holy person? And the differences were based on Nazir, right? That like we see by a Nazir, that Shmuel says, well, a Nazir is called a sinner, and he is only refraining from one thing, namely wine. A fellow who doesn't drink at all, doesn't eat anything, doesn't drink anything, certainly he's called a sinner. Whereas Rabbi Elazar says, no, he's taka called very, very holy, also like we see by the Nazir. And Rish Lakish says that the fellow is taka called a chosed. Alright, sounds very nice. And then we talked about, can you do kind of partial fast, right? We said that if a fellow accepts upon himself to fast, so that whole night before, preceding the fast, he's allowed to eat. He just that day he doesn't eat. What if he what if he does a partial fast? So it sounds like as long as it was sort of premeditated, so that would be considered, you could do a partial fast. That's no problem. Friends, that was Daf Yud Aleph, Masechta Taanis. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.